I'm Krista, I'm an addict.
I'm Gracie and I'm not.
My name's Jahmil and I'm a recovering alcoholic.
So today we have Jahmil on here. He has some different perspectives of different things that he has went through in his life that, and in recovery and prior to recovery, that we haven't touched base on. And I think that he's going to bring a different point of view and be able to share some things with y'all that we haven't been able to bring light to. So we're really excited to have you today. So thank you for coming on.
No problem. Honored to be here.
Yeah. So will you share like a little bit about like touch base on like your childhood and like just, you know, like before?
Yeah, most definitely. Coming up, well, first and foremost, I'm a military brat. My mother and my father split up. I think me and my brother. Well, let me back up a little bit. I got one brother on my mother's side, and I got 3 sisters on my dad's side. I think dad and mom split up. I think it was like around like 85ish, something like that. I was born overseas, so when they split up, we moved to Clarksville, Tennessee. Then we maneuvered our way down to Russellville, Kentucky. So we stayed down there for I say probably about 3 or 4 years with my great grandmother. Instantly at a very young age, like my mom got me and my brother involved in sports because she ran track coming up. She was a cheerleader. She went to Western Kentucky University, went to UK. We got involved in sports pretty heavy, and then we made our way up to Bowling Green, and just like from the age of like 9, I started playing baseball. Then it went over to basketball, and then like, you know, my childhood was very involved with sports and you know, going to school, and I didn't really have a bad upbringing. You know, I just, you know, all my trouble and stuff started because, you know, it was kind of a slight struggle, you know, as far as like my mom being a single parent, you know, and I try to take matters into my own hands to help her out to keep the bills and stuff paid. You know, my brother, he made some irrational decisions too, and I kind of followed in his footsteps because my brother was kind of like that was my rock coming up, being that I didn't have a dad coming up, growing up. So, you know, my childhood wasn't really too bad, but it wasn't the best because, you know, we struggled. We most definitely did that.
Okay. So you went from sports to is your brother older, you said?
Yeah, he's 2 years, 2 years and 10 months older than I am.
So like when's the first time that you found yourself like involved with, you know, like the justice system, you know, like criminal history?
Well, when we moved up to Bowling Green, I attended Warren Central High School, and then like I stated earlier before, you know, my mother, man, you know, she kind of struggled with the bills here and there as we was coming up, you know, so we kind of bounced around and we moved and we lived in almost every part of the city. So, you know, once I went to Warren Central at first, and then we went from county school to city school. So I started going to Bowling Green, and when I started going to Bowling Green High, that's kind of when you know, I was playing basketball, but I didn't want to really attend school because I wanted to be on the streets, you know, so I wanted to be over on the block. And it started from catching truancy, you know, going to jail for truancy to the point where I just stopped going all in all, you know, because my brother, he he had started making a little money from the streets. And like I said, man, I watched his every move because, you know, when he played football, I played basketball, man. Like he had, you know, all the team moms and stuff loved my brother. You know what I mean? And he was real cool with the birds and the birds and the beards and all that kind of basically runs Bowling Green High School, you know, and like I watched every move my brother made coming up in the streets, man, and I kind of, you know, I wanted to be just like him. So I think around my freshman year is when I caught my first dope case, and I caught a gun case a couple years after that, and then I ended up doing my first federal I mean, not federal, but penitentiary bid in like, I think it was 99. That's when I first caught my first number. And I ended up actually hitting the yard in like 2000. And that's when I graduated. That's when I was supposed to graduate because I quit my sophomore year. So I say probably around 17-ish, 16, 17, 18, in between them 3 years right there. That's when all the trouble started I started really piling up the trouble.
So you said you did your first time at 17?
Nah, that's when I caught my first dope case at 17.
Okay.
Once I turned 18, because Judge Lewis kind of probated it because I never had been in trouble before.
Uh-huh.
But so he kind of probated it. And so I took that as a slap on the wrist. And of course, with my thinking, man, I the insanity, man. I kept doing the same thing, and it kind of progressed, man. It got worse. I started packing guns, going out to clubs and stuff every weekend, all hours, wee hours of the night. That my drug usage and the alcohol hadn't really set in too much around that time because I had just stopped playing ball. But I was sneaking and smoking weed, like I said, I was always sneaking out to the block selling drugs or whatever. But I was always too scared to try hard drugs because I had just ventured away from school. And
Yeah.
I actually hit the yard. I hit the yard for the first time when I was 18. When I finally turned 18 and I caught them charges. And then after I caught the gun case and I went to court for the gun case, that's when he set me down because, he was like, well, you moving around out here, you carrying guns and loaded weapons, deadly weapons or whatever. So, he set me down and sent me on to the penitentiary for the first time in early 2000.
And how long did you do that time?
Oh, well, all my charges, when he tallied up all my charges, from the gun case to the couple dope cases that I had caught, I ended up catching 13 years in the state. So the first time I went down, I stayed down for like 31 months, and I went to SAP. They got a program in prison. It's called Substance Abuse Program.
Yeah.
So I went through SAP, and I was an intern and all that. And I always done good with the programs, man. I always faked it till I made it, man, real good,
Yeah.
Yeah, the parole board let me out, and then I just got to like catching what they call defermatives, where you got to go where, like, if you catch too many dirties or whatever, the PO locks you up, and I got to go back in front of the parole board, and they give me a 15-month fly period, and I catch a 12-month fly period. So that's really how it came in spurts. The first time when I started doing
Yeah. So you grew up in the beginning of your adult life was spent incarcerated.
Yeah.
So what do you think that did to you as far, because we haven't talked about, like, so you did that like when you were back into society, like what kind of effect did that have on you just being like successful, like did like getting a job? And I mean, I know the answers to that, but like, will you share with like everybody else, like just the difficulties that you faced getting out, having done that time?
Yeah. Really, excuse me. Really, I mean, in the back of my mind, I knew I had to have a job, to keep myself out. But in all actuality, man, the reality of the situation back then, when I was young back then, I still wasn't grasping the concept of, doing the next right thing and
Yeah.
wanting to get a job and maintain employment. It was more of a thing to where the streets, man, and making fast money or whatnot had kind of, it blurred out the fact, man, that I needed to get a job, you know what I'm saying? Because I always told myself back then, slow money was no money, that, I wanted to help my mother in any shape, form, or fashion that I could, and it kind of clouded that judgment, man, of me getting a job and maintaining it, because it's like I had a resentment toward the system,
Yeah.
and how dare them lock me up and think just because they, lock me up, then let me back out, they think I'm gonna get a job. You know what I mean? I mean, it was crazy, man. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
All right, so lead us on to the next phase. What was the next pivotal moment?
Well, leading on a few years after that, I had got out. I think it was around like 2006 when I had got out on my last affirmative. By this time, like I was really numb to the free world. You know, I was numb to anything that I had to do to basically now looking back at it now, I was blind to anything that had anything to do with being a man. You know what I mean? Me and my brother's relationship, man, that's about what killed me the most, man, because my brother had got addicted to hard drugs. Uh, and our relationship, man, we didn't really have too much of one because he was so deep in the streets, man, getting high. And the thing about it is like he made himself stay away from me. You know, he kind of kept himself secluded because, you know, he never wanted us to see him getting high. I always seen my brother high, but I never seen him actually get high. You know what I'm saying? Because like
Yeah.
me and my brother, man, like our relationship was so tight coming up, you know, because me, him, and mama was all we ever had. Because, you know, like, you know, dad left. Well, he didn't leave, but you know, like things happen in relationships where parents split up, you know. So like I was I was kind of just out here running around like a chicken with his head cut off, man. You know, I wasn't listening to mama. Uh I wasn't maintaining my financial situation out here, man. It's like I began to start hustling backwards, man, because I held so much resentment toward like the prison system. You know, so you know, I was just content with making money and spending money. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like I really didn't really set any goals, man, when I was out there in the streets. You know, it wasn't nothing that I felt like I had to do at that point in time. You know, as long as I was getting by, I was cool. You know, because like I always worried about my brother. I always worried about my mom. You know what I'm saying? And they always worried. Well, she always worried about me, and that kind of blocked me out from that silly focus I was supposed to have in the streets. You know, so I just you know, I just got high, man. I got high and I drank, and it just became it come to a point where, you know, things started spiraling out of control because around this time, about mid 2006, I had started popping ecstasy. I picked up ecstasy. Uh, I had started messing with a little coke, couple painkillers here and there, which that wasn't never really my DOC, man. It was something that I took, man, the next morning when I was trying to fight that crap off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Uh, I began to me and a best friend of mine. Now the whole time all this is transpiring with my life, though, my brother was like he was just out there, you know, and he, like I said, he kept himself away from me, man. I fought about my brother. I've had a couple shootouts about him. Uh, been shot at, you know, beefing with dudes that he was beefing with. All because, you know, I was always in my feelings because people used to sell my brother drugs. You know what I mean? I wasn't my mind wasn't never really wrapped around the fact that he was going to do what he was going to do anyway because he was grown. You know, all I could ever think about back then was that's my brother, man. Y'all know how we roll. How could y'all do this to me? You know what I'm saying? Because it was always some dudes that I knew. So I linked up with a good friend of mine, man, and we started doing a little music back then, back in '06 going into '07. And a couple of guys got to coming around that, you know, I really didn't approve of, you know, but I couldn't really tell him and his brother what to do because they owned the studio, they owned the building. So, you know, it was just what it was. And the feds was watching this guy, you know, and like I tried to bring up time after time, man, you know, these cars parked outside of the building that wasn't never there. But people used to think I was tripping, you know, they used to tell me that it was the ex messing with me, you know, like I was being delusional. You know, and it wasn't that, man. It turned out to be true, but I was the only one that bit the bullet. But the feds was interrogating, well, not interrogating, but they was investigating him, man. And uh, one day we was ready to go out of town. We was ready to go shopping, and I had went down to sell some stuff to some of his people, and the people that down there that I made a transaction with had the feds with them. and they took a picture of me, and I ended up catching the federal case. I received 120 months in the federal department of not the DLC, but the Justice Center. It's like it's a different. It's kind of what you would call a different ball game. They got
the United States.
Yeah,
The United States versus you, not just the state.
yeah. That's what it said on my discovery: the United States of America versus Jahmil Walker. So
God.
yeah, when they first gave me this case, man, I was they had violated me in the state because I wasn't done with my state time yet. So they had violated me in the state for dirty urine, and when I got locked up and they sent me to the Rotary Farm, the ATF come up there and pulled me out, and that's when they served me my indictment.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I felt like, man, I felt like I wasn't gonna never see the streets again, man, because they got a thing with the feds where they sentence you. When they sentence you by what is called a guideline. And when the feds give you time, they don't sentence you with years. They sentence you by months. You know what I'm saying? They don't get that because 120 months is 10 years once you do the math, but they don't go in there and tell you that you're gonna receive 10 years. They tell you that you're gonna receive 120 months. You'll be out this, and this time. So at first when they served me that, my paperwork said that it was 10 years to life because of my record that I had. They go they go with like your previous cases, whatever that you caught in the past, the feds use that up against you, and they come up with a point system. You know what I mean? So my points was at like a 16, so they was trying to career me out. What they call career me out. They tried to give me 188 months, but the judge opposed it because I was on just one count out of 18 counts. So he gave me what you call the bottom end of a mandatory minimum, which means they can't come under it, but they can go over the top of it. So he gave me the bottom end, which was 120 months. So, man, I cried like a baby. I ain't gonna lie, man. I was tore up, man, because mom, she had came to see me at Grayson County because I sat down there in Grayson County for like 26 months before I even signed for my time. So she came and seen me one time while I was down there because I told her, because around this time she had started becoming kind of sick, So I told her she didn't really have to be getting on the road like that because I was in there with some dudes that, basically gave me the game wrong, man. Look, you're gonna be sitting still for a minute. If you feel that way about your mom, man, don't be having her riding up down that road like that, So I had to get with the program, but she came and seen me once, man. So when she came and seen me, we talked about everything. I didn't want to sign for that time because I felt like they should have just sentenced me to what I was accountable for. And that was just, they gave me all the time for like 7.6 grams, man. It was crazy. You know what I'm saying? Man, I filed all kind of, got me a jailhouse lawyer, man. I tried to file some stuff, but it wouldn't break out of the conspiracy because I was caught in the conspiracy. So they ended up giving me the time, man. I ended up I went down Ashland. I did like 5.5 years down there. Then I went to I worked my points down. I got my GED while I was locked up. I got my GED. I joined culinary arts for a little bit, but I dropped out because I worked my points down from getting my education. They sent me to a camp. And like the camp is like the best level of the federal system that you can get at. There's no fence around it. Like you can kind of just move around and you get jobs out in the community. You know what I'm saying? Like you get your benefits with it, And I had got when I had got transferred from Ashland to Manchester, they let my mom come and pick me up because you can catch what you call a furlough. So I caught me a furlough with her, and when I had seen her that next time after 5.5 years, she was so small, man. She was diabetes and neuropathy. Stomach was paralyzed, man. She's all kind of sickness had hit her at one time. But I was locked up. I could never really witness the physical side of it like I did, right before she passed just last year. But I went there, man, sat down Manchester for like 19 more months. Then I got up under 4 years and they sent me up to, they flew me out to West Virginia. And I did like my last 27 months up there. I joined RDAP. Like my last 9 months, I did RDAP up there. That gave me time. And
Sorry.
bless. I peer mentored up there in RDAP program. They gave me 12 months off my sentence, 6 months halfway house. So they gave me like 18 months off my sentence, and I ended up getting that 21st, 2017. I went in like 2007, got out 17 at the end of 17. And when I got out, man, like I lost touch with reality, because if you do 10 calendars, man, you know, it's I was used to a certain way of living, man. I was eating chicken on Thursday, cheeseburgers on Wednesday. You know, count time at 4 o'clock. You know what I mean? I was doing that like it was a repetitive thing for 10 years, man. You know, my first 2 months out, I was sick as a dog every day. I was puking my guts up, man, because like my body was getting back, you know, used to being out in the free world. So I ended up getting out in 2017, and I hit the ground running, man, trying to catch up with the Joneses.